Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Lancellotta, and I'm the coordinator of the MBA program. So today you're here to hear more about possibly entering the Pharm.D MBA program. Today's session, what we're going to do is we'll do some introductions of our panelists here. It's a mix of current students as well as some of our alum. We'll talk about why you may consider going into the Pharm.D MBA. We'll talk about the options, choosing full-time, part-time. We'll talk about the curriculum, what you can do in advance before coming into the MBA possibly. We'll talk about the admission criteria. And Q&A, we always put it towards the last, but obviously if you have questions throughout the session, please feel free to ask away. Okay. So again, my name is Lisa Lancellotta. I'm the coordinator of the program, meaning that I do the recruiting, but I'm also the academic advisor. So I'm the person that you see before, during, and after. So any questions about the MBA, you'd be coming to myself. Also, I wanted to introduce Dr. Erica Estes, which you all know. She's the professor and director of the Pharm.D program. So any questions concerning the Pharm.D side of the MBA, she'd definitely be able to answer. I also wanted to just say thank you to Ian Lester, who's helped put this together on the technology side. Couldn't do it without him. And then, of course, our panelists. So I'm just going to kind of introduce them one by one. And if you just want to give a quick intro about yourself, if you're a current student, if you're an alum, what you're doing. Currently, we have TJ Dobson. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to point out that Lisa is the Denise of the MBA program. Just to get the picture, she's always there for you. She's good at responding. I'm not always good at responding, but Lisa is always there for me. So my name is Timothy Dobson. I'm currently a P4 student. I started the MBA program 2 years ago during the spring of my P2 year or P3 year. And I've been slowly working through it. I plan to graduate with both degrees this spring of 2022. My current plan is to either follow a fellowship track or go back to school to get another advanced degree. But other than that, I'm from Westerly, Rhode Island, and I'm going to point out that my sister's in the audience right now, Lauren. So, but that's about it.
All right. And next we have Christina Lesniak.
Hi, everyone. My name's Krisha. I'm from Maine originally, and I'm a student here at University of Rhode Island in both programs. Similar to TJ's timeline, I started, I believe, the summer after my P2 year, and I've actually finished all of the required coursework for the MBA, and now I'm just finishing out my rotations, which count to the program as well. So that's exciting. I'll graduate with both degrees in the spring of 2022. And also similar to TJ, I'm looking into the industry fellowship route and looking forward to applying those business skills there.
Excellent. And then next we have Erica Rodi.
Hi, my name's Erica. I'm a P3 right now, so I'm just currently taking classes both for both programs. I applied the spring of my P2 year and started classes the summer of my P2 year, going into P3 year, sorry. And I'm not exactly sure what I want to do yet, so hopefully this panel will also help me out.
Thank you. Next, we have one of our alum, Dr. Ariana Houle.
Oh, that sounds weird. And I like the word alumni because it makes sense like a euphemism for the old person in the group here. So bear with me. I started the MBA program 8 years ago. I actually started in my P1 year spring semester. I am from Rhode Island. I haven't really gone too far, although it was a 50-minute drive from my hometown. So that was like pack your overnight bags, you're moving across the country. I currently work for CVS Health. I'm on our immunizations team. So my day-to-day really involves a lot of clinical aspects of our vaccinations, any patient safety events, laws around vaccines, as well as anything really to do with the COVID vaccine right now, just because of the state that we're all in. So yeah, the MBA completely shaped my career, and I'm really excited to share that with you today.
Thank you so much. And then on Zoom, we don't want to leave out Dr. Anthony Ayudi. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, and hopefully you can see me. If not, just hope my voice is very soothing. Anthony, a little bit older than Ariana, but just I think a year before, but know Ariana well. And so I also graduated Pharm.D MBA. I don't remember when I started the MBA classes, remember at least finishing them in time. I went the fellowship route after school, so after finishing the Pharm.D MBA, did a postdoc fellowship at Northeastern with a company called Cubist. Interesting story that, 7 months into my 2-year fellowship, Cubist was bought by Merck. And so I started working for Merck for about a year, but then quickly realized that clinical research at a large organization just wasn't for me. So I moved over to a small startup called Stealth Biotherapeutics. Was there for about 5 years, running clinical trials everywhere from first in human all the way up through global phase 3 trials. And then about 18 months ago, I actually jumped to the venture capitalist that started Stealth Biotherapeutics. And so now I'm more on the investor side. And so my day-to-day really involves hearing pitches from companies, evaluating their science, their management team, their potential plan, and then making investments in the companies. And so, we invest upwards of billions of dollars, in many companies. We have about 100 companies that we manage. And part of my role is actually starting new companies, which is pretty fun. So actually taking technology out of universities such as the University of Rhode Island, and then, creating a team to help drive, the development of that product to hopefully have a commercial product.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, the big question is, why are you thinking about the Pharm.D MBA? Clearly you will have a job when you leave here, whether you do the MBA or not. A lot of times people are looking at this degree as potential options. You want to set kind of the goals up there where you can almost do anything when you leave URI, especially with this dual degree. The MBA was originally created for non-business majors. So don't feel if you've never seen a business course before in your life, you're behind the 8 ball at all. Okay, so it was designed for non-business majors. I'm not going to read off the slide, you can read it, but it really just strengthens kind of the whole idea of strategy, business strategy, critical thinking, presentation skills, etc. A little stat, currently there's 12 students in the program, and we have over 60 alumni that have gone through the program. So that just gives you an idea. It's not for everybody. Not everybody is interested in the business side of the pharmaceutical industry. But for those that are, it is going to be very beneficial as you move through an organization. Okay, so I'm going to ask the first question to the panel. Why did you choose the program? Why don't we start with maybe Anthony? Why don't we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that's important to remember as a clinician, as a Pharm.D, is when you get out into the real world, starting day one, you are going to be a business person too. Unfortunately, even if you're working at non-for-profits, at the end of the day, you can't do great work unless you have a viable, business. And so, from day one, whether you're managing a project, you're managing people, it's important to learn those skills. And it's really soft skills that you may pick it up in different organizations that you're part of, or through some of the pharmacy classes. But, I think the way that the MBA program was set up, it really kind of just gives you a survey of many different aspects of business. And, every single day I obviously use it, the skills that I've learned. And, when I think about the MBA program, it's not like compounding. It's not like, oncology core. A lot of, I don't want to say things are more common sense, but they're tangible, right? You can actually put into work what you're learning. And between the organizations that I was involved with at the university, and then, beyond, I think, again, I hate to say this, but I probably use my business skills and learnings, maybe more than I do my clinical learnings, especially in the role that I'm in today.
Excellent, thank you. How about any of the other panelists today? Can you talk a little bit about why maybe you decided to join the program?
So I decided to join this program because, so my brother is also a pharmacist and he works at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he does medication reviews with the Medicare patients. That seemed really interesting to me. Right now, I currently work at an independent pharmacy, and while I do like that community aspect, I feel like there's more of a patient interaction when you're really with that one population that I really like getting out of. So that's why I chose this.
Yeah, so similar to Anthony's sentiments, I definitely saw that these business skills would be applicable to any realm of pharmacy. As I went through my career, I definitely started looking more into managed care and then found industry, which is kind of where I'm interested now. So I think, like we've been saying, it's definitely going to be those skills that you can use on a daily basis to help grow your career. And you'll always be involved in sort of helping to staff your organization or managing other team members. So definitely something that can take you far.
Going off what Dr. Ayudi said, I went into the MBA knowing that I'm going to need these business skills for my future career. Sometimes they recommend getting your MBA after you get out of school, after you've been working for a few years. But I said, hey, I'm in school for an extra 2 years. I can take this, take these extra courses. It's not too much of a workload, and graduate with both degrees on time so that I have a head start in that business area. And it also helps distinguish myself among my other, other peers that I'll be graduating with when I'm looking for jobs or fellowships right now, actually.
I guess I'm a little different. I took business classes because I had to fill up my schedule freshman year, and I found out I liked it. So I actually stumbled upon business by happenstance. My stepdad is an accountant, and he was like, everybody needs to take accounting for life. You have to take accounting. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll take accounting. And I fell in love with it. And then that's when I realized that there was more to pharmacy than just clinical aspects of the work. And that was really, really exciting. And that's where, because I liked it so much, I wanted to continue it. And I actually almost found my courses a break from the heavy duty science of the day-to-day of pharmacy. So that's why I pursued it and stuck with it. I also thought it was great to have a differentiation point to my resume. Pharmacists, we're cranking out a lot of them today. And not to say that a pharmacy degree is not good enough, but I was just more worried down the road if there was a job that I wanted, like how do I stick out a little bit more? Or if does it unlock doors that just my pharmacy degree would not have unlocked? So that's kind of, so happened accidentally, but that's why I stayed with it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I just wanted a quick slide as far as what other opportunities are out there, for jobs. So it's just a quick little snapshot of where some of the alumni have started working at. Okay, let's talk about what the options are. So if this is something of interest to you, there's 2 ways that you can pursue the Pharm.D MBA. We have 2 MBA programs. We have an evening MBA, and we also have a 1-year full-time MBA. Okay, I think everybody on this panel has done the evening MBA, in which you are actually going to combine during your P3 and P4 year, the MBA along with your pharmacy classes. And I think that's where we're going to spend most of the time talking, because that is usually what everybody does. But I also did want to point out we have a 1-year full-time MBA. This is a scenario where you would finish your Pharm.D program and then join the 1-year MBA. Okay, so you would actually add a 7th year. And I think that's one of the reasons why not as many people join the 1-year program. But as long as the schedules map up, you can finish both degrees at the same time. Okay, so the goal is to finish both and have 2 degrees when you leave URI. So let's talk more about the evening MBA curriculum, since that's usually where everyone tends to go to. What you're looking at is in the evening program, it is one of the largest graduate programs at URI. We typically have over 150 students at any one time. Usually students are working full-time in the program, full-time outside of the program, and usually taking 1 or 2 classes at night. That's the typical evening student. As a Pharm.D student, you're having a little bit of flexibility as far as how many courses you want to take per semester. And we'll kind of talk about options a little bit later. But this is what the curriculum looks like. We have a group of 8 core courses that make up any business curriculum. So you're seeing that breadth of options. You will be taking accounting. You'll be taking marketing, finance, supply chain, the disciplines that make up a business. Usually, evening MBA students will then go on to take 6 electives. In this dual program, we're actually double counting 4 of your graduate level pharmacy courses, or 6 credits, 12 credits, as part of your electives in the MBA. So technically, you are only going to have 2 more electives to take. Maximum, you have 10 courses. I'll explain in a little bit, you could jump ahead and maybe waive out of statistics and economics, which would actually bring you down to only 8. So that's really a benefit of thinking about starting early as freshman year when we talk about waivers, to take some courses to possibly waive out of those too. Now, when it comes to the MBA electives, you have a wide variety: marketing, finance, supply chain, organizational leadership. So that's where you're focusing a little bit on your own interests when it comes to that. Okay, no one can see this, I know, but what happens is this slide shows, and it's on also the Pharm.D MBA website, you have the possibility out of waiving 2 of the courses, statistics and economics. Those were the 2 courses on the list in the previous slide. We so happen to say, if you took 2 economics as an undergraduate, you could waive the Econ 590. If you took 2 statistics courses as an undergrad, you could waive MBA 500. So this is the list, because everyone always asks what counts. So you could try and fit in your schedule any 2 courses in those areas, and therefore you'd only have 8 courses to complete the MBA once you get into the program. Now let me ask the panel, did anyone waive out of their courses? And if so, what did you take?
I did.
If you remember.
No, I do. So as I was saying, you guys, I actually had to fill up my freshman and sophomore year with classes because I had tested out of some courses with AP. And that was when I was like, oh, I can minor in business. Let me set my goal on that. And that was when I learned about the MBA program, that some of the courses for minoring actually waived me out, and what an advantage that was. So I think I waived out of, at the time, there was 3 courses we could waive out of. I waived out of the econ, and I can't remember what the other one was. Stats, because you already had to take a stats freshman or sophomore year, you had 1 of 2 down. So I actually made the decision to do a summer stats undergrad class instead of taking the MBA stats version.
I also did a similar thing. So I took macroeconomics, and that covered, because you have to take microeconomics with the pharmacy program. So I waived out of that. And then this past summer, I took, I don't know the exact name, but it was another stats course. So I waived out of the 500 level stats.
Yeah, so similarly, I took advantage of the pharmacy program, the undergrad years covering the microeconomics and biostatistics. And I actually had AP macro credit and AP stats credit from high school. And those transferred in and combined with the undergrad, I was able to waive out of both of those.
I only, opted out of economics, but that was it.
Yeah, so everyone's different. You know, if you can't fit into statistics, that's okay. You know, you would just need to take the MBA 500 with the regular evening MBA students. So these are just options to show you how quickly or, you know, how slowly you need to go through. This is a possible schedule. So in the evening MBA program, there's 3 times a year that you can apply: fall, spring, and summer. However, in the Pharm.D MBA, you do need to wait until after your P2 year to actually start taking MBA classes, which is the summer. And as an advisor, I'm the one that would advise you apply for summer, okay? Because you're not taking any pharmacy courses over the summer. That's the ideal time to start with the MBA. Because if you do it in this realm, what happens is, let's say you start your P3 year, you're already busy with your classes, okay? You don't want to overload yourself. Maybe in that semester, you're only taking 1 MBA class that fall, maybe 2 if you can fit it in. If you start in summer, it alleviates you having to really push and take a lot of classes fall and spring on the MBA side. So these are all different scenarios. There's probably about 10 other scenarios, but we just want to give you a snapshot of what it may look like. And maybe for the panelists, how did you figure as far as, did you like the summer classes so that it alleviated the fall, spring overload?
Yeah, so I believe I took organizational behavior as the first summer class after my P2 year. And like I was saying before, unlike Krisha, which she's done, I think I still have two classes to take. Word of advice would be, it might be easier to actually take the courses while you're in your didactic experience, as when you're on rotations, it might be more stressful. You might have more requirements and responsibilities. So that's just a word of advice for me right now going through it, is to maybe add up the classes during your P2 and P3 years so that you're not worrying about it on rotations your P4 year.
Yeah, so I remember when I was first accepted, I met with Lisa, and she is very helpful in mapping out sort of what your whole curriculum would look like. And I followed that like a guide. So she mapped out, like, if I was able to take a total of 3 courses that first summer, how it would really lighten the load for the rest of my time in the program. So that was really worth it to me. And then I also was fortunate, I got the first block of my rotations off, so I could devote that to finishing up the program. So now I could just have the rest of the year to focus on those.
So I took 3 classes last summer. I would highly recommend that. Right now I'm taking 1 business class, and then I'm taking my pharmacy elective, because you do get electives. Next semester I'll be taking 2 business classes and not taking a pharmacy elective. And then I'm hoping to get my first summer block off like Krisha, so that I can also finish up my classes and be done before rotations.
Anthony, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I definitely took summer courses, but I remember there was a lot of flexibility. I remember having a Saturday course that met for like 6 Saturdays, but it was like an all-day Saturday course. So there's really a lot of flexibility, and I think maybe the one recommendation that I would give is, I do remember a semester that I had, I think it was like 24 credits between the pharmacy and the MBA, and I think that that's a little too much. I think that you just try to get those degrees or get those, pass whatever the test is, or do the report, where you don't really get to take in information as much. And, so I think slow and steady wins the race here. And so starting earlier and then really spreading it out, across the rest of your course load and your time at URI definitely makes, is a recommendation from a seasoned veteran over here.
Old person. Sorry. The only thing I have to add is be strategic, right? Like, you got to look forward to what you're going to have. Think about what your cores are going to be like, right? So you guys will have a sense probably pretty early on. Are you the systems type? Like, I was always really good at cardio, because it was all like, how does things relate? Was not really good with infectious disease, because it's a lot of memorization. That was a tougher core for me, right? So as I was trying to think about my business classes, where I knew I was going to need to focus a little bit more on pharmacy, I tried to think about what are the business courses that would be a little easier for me to take. And I would also say the same thing for rotations, right? Because although it would be nice and ideal to get it done before rotations, you may not be able to, or you might stress yourself out trying to finish it earlier, which is not ideal either. So think about your rotations once you get to that point, or think about saving your easier business classes if they're not a prerequisite for something else for your last year of the program. So just the more you can proactively plan, and as you guys are saying, working with Lisa on that, the better off you'll be. You don't want to take it as it comes. You really want to be strategic.
And there isn't a rule that says you have to finish both at the same time. If you had a scenario where you finished your Pharm.D and still had 1 or 2 classes to take in the MBA, that's okay. These are evening classes. I'll kind of explain a little bit more in detail, but these are evening classes. So if you're working full time, after you finish your Pharm.D, you can still complete the MBA. It just will be like a traditional evening MBA student working full time during the day, taking 1 or 2 classes at night. So don't feel the pressure that you have to get both done at the same time. There's a lot of flexibility. We even have the flexibility to transfer in some courses from another institution, another MBA program. So that if it's a scenario, you graduate the Pharm.D and you move out to California, don't worry about it. We'll find classes somewhere out there or online through another accredited institution and transfer them back to URI. So I would work with you individually to figure out how this can be done. So in the program, as I mentioned, it's flexible. You can start fall, spring, and summer. We follow the same exact URI schedule. So what you're used to, spring breaks, start and end times each semester, same thing as an evening MBA student. The difference is most of our classes are based out of our Providence campus. So not as convenient for those that live down here, but they are night classes. So usually the earliest they'll start is 6 o'clock. So typically there's time for you to be able to make the commute from Kingston to Providence in time. Okay, the only thing we have to watch out for is if you have late labs or something like that. But each of these classes only meets one night a week. We would take a look at the schedule. Is it a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? And then plot out your MBA classes after your PharmD classes are scheduled first. Okay, so usually before I meet with you, say, okay, register for your PharmD classes, and then let's talk about, you know, what your schedule looks like. How can we plot out the MBA classes?
Lisa, if I could just add one thing there.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I personally loved the evening class in Providence. It was kind of a way to break up. You know, when you go to the same building every day, after day after day after day, it's nice to kind of get a break. And so, you know, maybe I'm the only person who likes driving, but I did not mind that drive up to Providence and then, you know, coming home in the evening. It allows you to kind of think through things, relax a little bit. So it's not as bad as it sounds.
Well, and what's unique about the evening MBA program as well is that people are coming from all different backgrounds. You know, both what they have done as an undergraduate, or maybe they hold a master's degree in something else, but also what industry they're working on and what jobs. It is usually a little bit older, average age is 30, you know, in the evening MBA program. You will be then surrounded by people that have work experience. So it's feeding off of their knowledge and networking with people within the industry, and not just a professor standing up for 3 hours and talking the whole time. So it's an exciting type of program. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about any experiences they've had, you know, dealing with that type of student.
I would say that was actually my favorite part of the program. If Lisa was going to ask, like, what was the thing you took away the most? It's exactly that. It's the diversity of the people you work with, because you know, you have a lot of similar thinking brains in pharmacy, right? We're all type A. Again, you're all studying the same thing, and so being with different people really challenged me to think differently about scenarios. And I don't think I would have necessarily been so challenged in that area had I not done the MBA. So I think you get a lot of value working with other peers who also too have real world experience, right? We go straight from high school into classes. Having that real world experience is a huge, huge benefit. So you have the opportunity to not get it directly right away, but learn from those who have and really help grow yourself and develop yourself. And that honestly translates into your pharmacy courses too, which that was another benefit.
Yeah, you pretty much said it perfectly. That's
Sorry.
it.
He has a delay.
And like we've kind of been alluding to, it is a nice break. It's a healthy difference from the same exact things you're doing in pharmacy. So it does kind of change your perspective looking at the pharmacy classes, and just gets you in a different frame of mind than we kind of are when we're doing the same things.
Yeah, going on what you guys said, just having that different diversity of people. You know, I'm 23 years old. I'm in a class right now with a 48-year-old. I'm in a class with a 35-year-old. Everyone brings their own like background and their expertise into whatever subject you're talking about. So you get a better understanding of like the concepts and how to apply those concepts and how they applied it to their specialty field and how you can apply it to the pharmacy field or just the industry field or healthcare in general. So that's what I've liked about it.
And Anthony, did you have something that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, you know, I just think, you know, down to the core of kind of what the MBA program is, right? I find it's a lot more about experiences, right? And that's business. It's what, you know, the experiences you've had, how you've dealt with things. And, you know, unlike it is a little bit, but pharmacy, you know, you're learning from a book, you're learning from slides, you're learning from, you know, treatment algorithms. Business, it's about learning from each other, right? And so that's where I think when you surround yourself with these individuals who have more experience, and, you know, when I was doing the MBA, I made the case that I had experience, right? I worked at a pharmacy and I was an intern, and it's a lot different, you know, when you're doing that 24/7 and that's your life. And so, you know, I think the one thing I can say is you'll learn as much from the people in the room that you will from whatever the, you know, the finance, you know, equation is, et cetera. So, you know, I think that's really a benefit, is that you do have this very heterogeneous group of students.
Excellent.
Would the summer classes be offered online for out-of-state students?
Good question. So with the summer session, URI is unique where, unfortunately, we don't schedule the classes ahead of time because it's optional for faculty to teach. So I don't have a yes or no answer to that because it depends on who's teaching and what they want to teach. In the past, we have had classes online as well as in person. But if it's a scenario that we hit the summer and nothing is online, that would be the situation where maybe we're going to transfer courses from another institution closer to home. And so we'll kind of, once the summer schedule is up, we would meet and say, okay, what's available? Are you going to be around if it's in person? If not, let's look elsewhere to try and transfer those courses in. Okay, let's just briefly brush through the one-year program because I just want to give you that as an option. We have had several students do it this way as well. We have a one-year full-time day program that is based out of our Kingston campus. It's a little bit different than the evening program as far as, one, obviously it's in Kingston, not Providence. These are day classes, not night classes. As well as in the one-year program, it is cohort-based. Everybody is traveling together as a team. It only begins in the fall semester. Same curriculum. The only difference is that, unfortunately, because you would finish the Pharm.D first before you start the MBA, URI doesn't allow us to double count courses if you've already graduated. It's a rule that you have to be matriculated in the program in order to double count. I think that's one of the main reasons why people also don't want to do this, is because we can't double count the two. So it's probably not the first priority, but I just do want to mention that this is the structure for those that don't think that they can fit MBA courses while they're already in the Pharm.D. Okay, as I mentioned, these are some of the highlights. We also, in this one-year program, a little bit different than the evening program, we do have a required consulting project. Students in the 1 year do tend to be younger. Average age is about 24. Again, there's that diversity of backgrounds. But we have a required consulting project that they do. We don't require it in the evening program because most people are working full-time and just don't have time to do a consulting project, as well as just some issues if they're doing a consulting project with a competitor. Okay, so I just want to kind of give you that as an option. Next, I just want to briefly talk about tuition, because that's something that you have to think about. In the traditional one-year MBA, for a Rhode Island resident, it would be around $16,000 for the whole program. Out of state, around $31,000. Now, with the evening program, what happens is, traditionally, you're paying per credit, okay? And obviously, the cost is up there. Now, one of the benefits of doing the dual degree is that while you're in the pharmacy, fall, let's say, of your P3 year, if you're only taking 18 credits and your max is 21 credits, if you add an MBA course, the cost is not going to increase for you because now you're bringing it up to the 21 credits. It will only cost you extra in the summer because obviously you're not taking classes for pharmacy, as well as if you go over your max credits. And then they will charge you per credit. Okay? One thing, as I mentioned up here, is that summer classes, what you'll see, they are so much less expensive than a traditional semester. And that's another reason why you want to take as many summer classes as you can. All right, so I just want to cover that just to make sure that you understand how that works. And then finally, what we're going to talk about admissions, and then we're going to open it up to questions that people have. So what we do is the university grad school has online application portals. For the College of Business, it's called Business Cast. And you would go to an online application portal, just like you did with the Common App, start submitting some information, contact information, name, where you went to school, etc. We also require a personal statement. It's just an essay. Why are you looking to enter the program? There's no right or wrong answer. It can be any length. And this is where you want to talk about why you're looking for the Pharm.D MBA program. Again, everybody's story is different. No right or wrong answer. We just want to learn more about you. The other information we need is, for instance, 2 letters of recommendation. That can be from professors. It can be from a manager and a professor, 2 managers, whoever you want to go to. No work experience is required, but we do ask that you upload a resume. We want to see what skills and jobs that you have had. If you're a Rhode Island resident, there's something called a Rhode Island residency application. We can talk about that at some other point if you're interested. Also, there'll be an application fee you pay online. And then finally, there is the possible requirement of having to take a standardized test called the GRE or the GMAT. Not sure if you're probably more familiar with the GRE, but the GMAT is usually for colleges of business. These are two standardized tests that are taken either at a testing site or online, but we do waive it if you have a GPA of 3.3 and above. Okay, so one of the benefits of doing well in your program and thinking forward, if you're a freshman or sophomore, is keep up that GPA. You don't want to have to take that test if you don't have to, okay? So those are the requirements. As I mentioned, deadlines, fall, spring, and summer. But again, the suggested path is to apply for summer so that you can start taking those MBA courses in summer. But if you're not ready, you can always apply for fall or spring. Okay, and then the one-year program, again, it only begins in the fall. I've talked a lot. I want to open it up. So maybe what we can do is, for the panelists here, any parting remarks before we open it up for questions to the audience?
Don't be nervous about the application process. You know, if you really want to go for this dual degree program, you know, you should do it. You know, put yourself out there, challenge yourself. You know, it's manageable even with pharmacy school. So don't be stressed out thinking that you won't be able to do it while you're in pharmacy school.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably is one of the biggest concerns, and that was definitely something I was considering before applying was, will I be able to handle these? And I think you get a good sense in this presentation with Lisa of how many people are there to support you. And the professors are really there to work with you, what you already bring to the table, and make it doable. So just keep that in mind when you're considering it.
I would really recommend this program. I know, like a lot of pharmacy students, I do get stressed out with exams, but it definitely is manageable. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's doable. And Lisa is great. She really helps you out. I must have emailed her like 1,000 times. And you can always meet with her. So I would recommend this program.
One quick comment on the GMAT. So that was actually required when I was doing it. It wasn't, we didn't have the option for GPA. So for some reason, if you're sitting here like, oh my God, my GPA is not that high and I have to take the test, it's okay. Like you'll pass through it. It's not that bad. I will encourage you though, get one of the practice books to actually practice, because it's been a while probably since, you know, SATs or any other sort of standardized test. So just make sure you do that if for some reason you have to take it. But kind of echoing what everyone else said, it's absolutely worth it. Again, it's fun. It actually is really fun. If you're someone who's like, I like science, but I know I'm looking for something to do a little different, I think you'll really like this program. And the benefits as you come out of school are just, it's amazing, because the thing is you'll be able to speak to people really well, and you'll understand strategy really well. And as Anthony was saying earlier on in this presentation, no matter where you go to be a pharmacist, whether you're in like a non-clinical role or the most clinical role, there's always a business aspect. And being able to understand and speak the language and just even connect the dots. It's not even remembering your finance terms. It helps you connect dots better is what I found. And that'll put you far and beyond the rest of your peers around you. So can't encourage it more. And then Anthony.
Yeah, no, Ariana, you said everything. I think the one thing, again, the GMAT, I don't think it's a hard test. It's just a very specific test. There's a specific type of logic question. So just make sure you do the prep work for it, but it really is not that challenging. If you made it to where you are in the pharmacy program, I think you'll be okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. This is my contact information. We've also sent out some handouts for you. But really, I'd love to just turn the tables and see what questions that you have for the panelists or myself. Feel free, there's a microphone on in the middle of the room. So if you have any questions, please come on up and ask away.
All right. First grade person.
Doctor, I just know to ask a lot of questions. I just wanted, you guys said this earlier, I just wanted to make sure. You said you should save the hardest business classes for which year between P2 to P4?
So I would actually think about what are your strengths, right? So if you're already getting a sense from your classes of where you think you might be stronger in the pharmacy program or not, like I said, the way I broke it down was systems-based or memorization-based is just the way I looked at our courses. So that's where I would just think about, you know what your core, unless there's going to be fundamental changes to the core. Yeah, we changed core. Okay, I don't know. So it's cool, it's fine. Okay.
Less memorizing is when I want to take the harder classes.
If that's the way you do. So I had friends of mine that like could pull out facts like that, and they struggled with more, if this is happening over here, what do I do over here? So that's where just know where you are, know what courses you have coming up. And then that's where I would just think strategically about what business courses you're going to take. Because the same thing goes for business. You're going to have classes that are like finance, where it's a lot of memorization. What formula do I use to get to this versus something like organizational behavior is really about how do you think about a situation, and it's more strategy. So you just got to know what are your strengths, what are your opportunities, and how do you balance that between the pharmacy and the business.
And then I will say I have 2 more questions before I just take them done soon. Does AP stats count in order to waive the stats?
It will count as one. So you need 2 undergraduate to waive 1 graduate level. So if you come in with an AP, that's fine. We just need to see a second stats or a second economics.
Okay, then I will take biostats. I took 4 on that, say so. And then J-term courses. I feel like I remember talking to like the head of business, and they were saying that you could take some of the main courses during J-term. Is it only electives, or can you also take only electives?
Yeah, so usually J-term, since it's such a short period of time of 3 weeks, usually there's only a couple of electives being offered. So none of the core courses are usually offered because that's really a tough time to try and get a core knowledge within a 3-week time period. So you could jump ahead, take an elective, because you remember you need 2 MBA electives. One could be at J-term. Now some of them tend to be in person versus online. So if you're not from Rhode Island, it might not be as convenient, but obviously it'll depend on the schedule of that J-term.
I probably should have specified J-term abroad.
Right now, there's no abroad. So possibly in a year or 2, when things open up again, then we have had abroad courses in the MBA. We kind of dual them with undergrad students as well, but it's mainly been supply chain electives where you go and you visit a company, and usually 3 or 4 companies abroad, learning about the supply chain and how they run in the international route. So hopefully that will open up again when things clear up a little bit.
Love to take that. And then one last question. Does a business minor remove any of the business minors you need to take?
No. So unfortunately, a business minor wouldn't remove any of the core courses you have to take, other than if you took business stats or, as part of economics. But none of the other core, unfortunately, would be waived in that scenario.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes.
So Danielle asked, what year of the 0 to 6 PharmD program will students typically apply?
So in this PharmD MBA program, you actually have to wait until your spring semester of your P2 year to apply for summer. And so URI doesn't really classify you as done with undergraduate until your your second semester P2 year. So the earliest you can apply is the summer after your P2 year. Other questions does anybody have?
Jordan asked, are you able to start the program before the end of the P2 year so you don't have to become too overwhelmed?
Unfortunately not. So unfortunately you cannot start the MBA program part of it until after your P2 year. So while it would be wonderful to be able to start, before the P2 year, unfortunately with the URI rules, they don't allow that.
I think there's also a benefit to that, if I may, because obviously P1 year is just crazy. You're really getting used to the pharmacy classes. But by P3 year, when you're enrolled in gold, you really have your systems in place to do well in pharmacy, so it makes it easier to do your coursework as well.
Yeah, and at any point in time, you could be a freshman. I've met with freshmen, I've met with sophomores. So at any point in time, if you have any questions and want to make a one-on-one appointment with me, I'm right in Ballantyne Hall. So feel free, you have my contact information. Feel free to email me and we can definitely make an appointment to talk about your goals. So I just want to say thank you to all of the panels today. It was really helpful, to get their perspective, even more than my perspective. So I want to thank you for your time.